the next game we'll talk about two teams that have undoubtedly improved just from game one, which is Liverpool and Chelsea. I thought they looked totally different to last season. They both had pretty poor seasons, didn't they, by their high standards? But Dave, it was a 1-1 draw, but it was entertaining and it was exciting. There were quite a few mistakes and errors that kind of made it that way, but exciting to see the attacking enterprise really from both teams, and a bit of a departure from how sluggish both were at times last season. I think Liverpool only had the one shot on target as well and scored from it. So it was quite, I don't know, on paper one-sided if you look at the stats. Chelsea were dominating possession. How did it look to you, and how did you enjoy it as kind of a curtain raiser for the big teams playing each other?
The Caicedo-Lavia derby, wasn't it?
Do you know what? Imagine if they'd have had the presentation or a picture of Caicedo for that game. That would have been...
I wish they'd done that. Oh. That would have been so funny just to watch Jurgen Klopp.
I mean, he had some moments, didn't he, on the sideline, where he kind of lost the plot a little bit. It was hilarious to watch. But it was an interesting... To be honest, the game itself, Liverpool started really well.
Yeah.
First 10, 15 minutes, they looked really threatening. Chelsea really couldn't get a hold of the ball and kind of get a foothold. And Liverpool obviously had a couple of opportunities, went ahead, really, really good goal. Disasi looked a little bit like he was struggling to settle, but he grew into the game for Chelsea. But I thought it was a really entertaining game. I thought Liverpool really did lose control of the game in the second half, especially. And Enzo Fernandez that's as good as I've seen him play for Chelsea, to be honest. Just the way he controlled, he just ticked things over. He was always on the half turn, receiving the ball into feet and obviously playing into those spaces. But the only thing I would have liked to have seen more from Chelsea, I think, was some of the off the ball movement. I feel like they need to be making those. That's something that actually we saw in glimpses from Nicholas Jackson, who was making a couple of tidy runs, but it's something that we just didn't see enough of last season. They weren't making the runs in behind, and obviously they weren't creating chances from it. But there were plenty of reasons to be encouraged, I think, for Chelsea fans in this game. I think if there was any team between the two, it looked like they would go on and win it. But if you look at the mass changes that they've made to their squad, then it's no surprise to see them. Obviously, that they were a way off of kind of being able to compete at the very top for me. But I think there's plenty of reason to be optimistic. And it looks like Pochettino's moulding his team quite nicely.
He's, I think, has shown signs of trying to balance that midfield out better. And I think when you picture Caicedo in that midfield, Miles, you can see where he slots in and what he provides to them, can't you? Because it does feel at the minute, until that player in particular arrives, it's slightly uneven in the middle of the park for Chelsea. But how much of a departure is this from Chelsea of last season? It wasn't that long ago they were grinding out those final results under Frank Lampard, limping over the line. Look at them now. It is a big improvement, isn't it?
The biggest improvement to me seemed to be the optimism within the stadium as well. It just felt like you were watching a different team. There weren't moans and groans. Instead, you could hear the fans being really behind the setup. And I'm not surprised, because actually it was a pretty youthful Chelsea team, new manager that brings a lot of excitement, and a really interesting setup, actually. I think they struggled to get a foothold in the first 20 minutes, like Dave says, because they just... I don't know, it doesn't seem like that was the smartest formation to maybe play against the Liverpool side. So they kind of lined up with three at the back, and then Chilwell and James were really high and kind of supporting the midfield more than they were supporting the defence. And that just meant that Colville, in like his first game for Chelsea, was trying to deal with Mo Salah. And it did not go well for them. But they obviously adapted and grew into the game. And I think that was a big part down to the fact that Chelsea fans were behind them for a change. I think that was a really big thing for them. And like Dave says, that was one of the best central midfield performances I've seen from a Premier League player in a really long time in Enzo Fernandez. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. But also, I thought Conor Gallagher had a really good game. Yeah. I feel a bit bad for Gallagher, because his game time at Chelsea will be very limited with the two signings it looks like they've got coming through the door now. If he gets any time at all, I mean, he might move on still. But I thought he really put his name back in the fold for Chelsea as well. I thought he was great. Chilwell was absolutely outstanding. I thought it was one of the better performances we've seen of him. And keeping those two fit on their fullback positions is going to be huge. But there's definite positives for Liverpool. Just a massive hole in their team that they're really struggling to fill, because Chelsea won't let them. It feels like, doesn't it?